Okay, we have English Grammar 7 and 8. And what we have to do first is go back through and score the pages that you did yesterday. And I know it was a whole slew of pages, but it wasn't a whole lot of work. And so on 206, I'm not sure how much of that we actually did in class, so I'll just go through the answers. Number 1 is adverb. Number 2 is adjective. That's on exercise A on page 206. If you're not there, pause this so you can get to there. And we will keep going. Number 3 on exercise A is noun. Number 4 is adverb. Number 5 is adverb. Number 6, exercise B, number 1. Although she was an African slave, should be underlined, and that should be adverb. Number 2, which often centered on spiritual and classical themes, should be underlined. That's an adjective. Number 3, that she wanted to write about her home and family, should be underlined, and that's a noun. And number 4, because she lacked formal education, should be underlined, and that's an adverb. And number 5, who lived during the War for Independence, should be underlined, and that is an adjective. Page 207. You should have had on Monday circled, and it should go at the beginning of the sentence. Number 2, you should have at the bottom of her suitcase circled, and that should go at the end of the sentence. Number 3, you should have in the library circled, and that should go at the beginning of the sentence or after read. Number 4, you should have Thursday circled, and that should go at the beginning of the sentence or at the end of the sentence. Number 5, you should have on his way to school circled. That should go at the beginning of the sentence. Number 6, you should have next week circled. That should go at the end of the sentence. Number 7, you should have in the news circled. That should go at the beginning of the sentence or after heard. And number 8, you should have using her past to tour the Australian exhibit at the zoo circled, and that should go at the beginning of the sentence. 208. Number 1, Grace knows less about fishing than I do. Number 2, of all the students, Sophia and David work most carefully. Most carefully. Number 3, the early Christian martyrs behaved honorably. Number 4, because it was Christmas, the children rose earlier than usual. Number 5, John lives closer to the school than Noah does. Number 6, of the 3 candidates, his views align most closely with mine. Number 7, as the plain lesson, Kesley began to move more freely. And number 8, I did well on the test yesterday. Number 9, of the 2 swimmers, Jake swam farther in 3 minutes. Julia felt worse than her brother. Number 209, exercise A. Number 1, you should have some crossed out. Number 2, never is crossed out. Number 3, somewheres is crossed out. Number 4, no is crossed out. Number 5, wasn't is crossed out. Number 6, ways is crossed out. And number 7, most capablest is crossed out. Number 8 on the next page, anywheres should be crossed out. Number 9, all the farther should be crossed out. Number 10, more better is crossed out, and anyone is crossed out. Number 11, ways is crossed out. Number 12, some is crossed out. Number 13, any is crossed out. Number 14, all the farther is crossed out. Number 15, never is crossed out. Number 16, never is crossed out. Number 17, some is crossed out. Number 18, ways is crossed out. Number 19, John Cabot is crossed out. And number 20, more faster is crossed out. Exercise B. All the farther should be crossed out, and above it, as far as. Number 2, all the faster is crossed out, and above it, as fast as. Number 3, some should be crossed out, and somewhat above that. More is crossed out on number 4. Number 5, neatest is crossed out, put neater above it. Number 6, the S on nowheres is crossed out. Number 7, more well is crossed out, put better above it. Number 8, has worked should be put after Mr. Bowman. Number 8, NT is crossed out on couldn't. Number 10, confidentliest is crossed out, and above it put confidently. Number 11, the S on ways is crossed out. Number 12, no is crossed out and put any above it. And number 13, the S on everywheres is crossed out. Number 14 on page 211, couldn't find no is crossed out, and you should put couldn't find any or could find no. And number 15, the S on anywheres is crossed out. Exercise C, number 1. Most hesitantliest is crossed out. Number 2, earliest is crossed out. Number 3, some is crossed out. Number 4, faster is crossed out. Number 5, no is crossed out. Number 6, all the faster is crossed out. Number 7, anywheres is crossed out. Number 8, some is crossed out. Number 9, everywheres is crossed out. And number 10, more brave is crossed out. And that's all you needed to do on page 211. On page 212, let's start working a little bit on that. Underline all the one-word adverbs. Put parentheses around all phrases used as adverbs. Put brackets around each adverb phrase. So we'll do a couple of them, and then we'll let you try to work on the rest of them. Number 1, you have the adverb clause. If you multiply a single-digit number by 9 and add the digits of the number, that is the whole clause. So you put brackets before if and after answer. Within that, you have one prepositional phrase, which is by 9. So put that in parentheses. And then you have a one-word adverb, always should be underlined. And why don't you just go ahead and try to do numbers 2 through 7 on that. I won't go over that anymore in class. And you should do these in both in your workbook and on your worksheet. Exercise B. Alyssa can play the piano better or more better than Janine can. The answer to that should be better, so you cross out more better. And you do the rest of these. On exercise C, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with those. And on number 1, you have something in the wrong place. On Tuesday, circle on Tuesday, that's in the wrong place. You decide where it should go. And for the rest of those, then, you do the same thing on those as what you did on exercise B on 210. So you go ahead and do those. And then, I've got a quiz for you. You have an envelope that has a quiz in it. It's quiz number 20. And this is what you should be doing for that quiz. On the first part of it, actually, you go ahead and get your parents to take out the quiz and give it to you, and for them to sign their names to it and put a number to it. So just pause this until you get all that done. Then you can start it up again. And what you're doing on the first part is, on the first column, you're putting an adjective and then the word that is described. Remember, adjectives describe nouns. So you just try to, and the adjectives cannot be a, an, and the, but you find the adjective and then you put that in the first column, and then the noun that is being described in the second column. In 6 through 10, you have words that are italicized, and you're just supposed to decide whether that italicized word is a noun. Remember, a noun is a person, place, or thing. So, and a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a noun, like his or her, or even both, or something like that, but it has to be used by itself if it's a pronoun. If you say both dogs, it's an adjective because both is defining dogs. But if you say, I took both to town, then it is a pronoun. And so those are either adjectives or pronouns. Actually, none of those are nouns, even though they give you one as a possibility. They are all either adjectives or pronouns. And then what you're doing in the third part is identify the italicized component as a direct object, an indirect object, a predicate nominative, or a predicate adjective. Remember, you have to find the verb. So find the verb. The verb in number 11 is sent. What is the subject? Hunter and Josh. You have to decide whether sent is an action verb or a linking verb. And so you have to decide that. And then if it is an action verb, you go the subject, Hunter and Josh, sent, and then you go who or what. And then whatever answers the question who or what is the direct object. And then you go to who or for who, and whatever answers the question to who or for who is the indirect object. And so you decide whether what is italicized there is, if it's you decide whether it's a direct object or an indirect object. Now, if the verb is a linking verb, then you find the subject and the verb. For instance, if you have the sentence, the dog is big, and you have the dog is Bruno. The dog is big, you have a linking verb here. Dog is big. Big is an adjective because it's a big dog, so this would be a predicate adjective. The dog is Bruno. Bruno is a predicate noun because Bruno is renaming dog, and it is a noun, it is not an adjective. That's what you do for the complements there on the bottom of the quiz. So that is your quiz, and this is the end of this lesson for today.